We wanted to give the player a new way to experience these classic maps.
No! God, please, no!
There are places where the metrics of the level are adjusted to fit more modern gameplay.
No!
So we finally got some information regarding the next Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. When I say some information, I'm talking about the multiplayer, because let's be honest, no one gives a shit about the campaign after the first week, and the multiplayer is what everybody is playing Call of Duty for. Now, I see a lot of people getting hyped over the information that we've gotten. I'm not quite sure why. Might I remind you guys that Sledgehammer Games are at the forefront of this game, you know. The guys who were heavily involved in the worst of the original trilogy of the Modern Warfare series. After this, it was then followed up by the worst advanced movement Call of Duty. After the worst advanced movement Call of Duty, we got the worst World War II Call of Duty. Followed up by somehow an even worse World War II Call of Duty, which I would argue is the worst Call of Duty in the franchise. In fact, it's the only Call of Duty game I haven't purchased. And before someone says, well, how can you know it's the worst Call of Duty if you never bought it? That game went on multiple free weekends, at least on PC. I can't speak for console, and every single free weekend I played it, and I could not stomach more than 2 hours of Vanguard. It is the biggest piece of shit I've ever played. So when I hear that the guys who made the worst Call of Duty I've ever played are the ones at the helm of the next Call of Duty, it doesn't exactly inspire confidence. Now we established the immediate red flags this game has simply going into it, let's take a look at the actual video they provided us with and go a little deeper into the potential issues and good aspects that have been shown off from this video.
Places that you weren't able to actually grab or reach before, now you can get there.
When it was a question of whether it
Lord have mercy, I'm about to bust.
hard to make sure that that experience was as close to the original as we possibly could while we modernized the look of the map.
Holy fucking dog shit, when you look at that. We've actually got a movement system implemented in the game that isn't acting like your PMC has just had a shotgun blast to the kneecaps for daring to look at the W key or the space bar. I mean, just look at it. Look at how fast you can fucking vault up the walls. It's a thing of beauty. If there's one thing that Sledgehammer have done correct, it's actually improved the movement. And before we go around sucking Sledgehammer's dick too hard, let's just reel it back a little bit, because this is not going to be the final movement. The most striking thing to me is that the gravity seems to be way too low. If you look at when they jump across from the AC unit to the wall, it looks like COD 4 old school. For those of you who didn't know, COD 4 had a game mode called old school, and one of the modifiers in it was that you jumped higher than you would in the normal game modes. This led to things like being able to jump out the map specifically on this mode. It doesn't really matter. I can't remember what the other changes are for that mode, but it does look a bit weird. So this is definitely not going to be the final movement, but just seeing this shows that they at least somewhat give a shit about toning back a lot of the shit that Modern Warfare 2 added, which basically just punished you for even attempting to move.
When we told the art team, we're gonna be making these maps, they lit up. They were like calling dibs on which ones they wanted to go get reference for. How are we gonna make these the best versions of those maps that people have ever played? Because that's what we wanted. That's what we want as fans.
The biggest changes are really in a fidelity sense. Places like Afghan, where it might have been difficult to see somebody in some of the circumstances, we have new tools to make that both look better, but also read better. so that your target acquisition is improved. When it was a question of whether it should be like the original or whether it should be more modern in terms of the metrics, we went with the original. And we pushed very hard to make sure that that experience was as close to the original as we possibly could while we modernized the look of the map.
So what we're hearing is actually really good, kind of not really. First things first, they said that they're going to try their best to stay with the original versions of the map. If they've got a choice between updating it or going with the original, they'll stay with the original kind of premise, which is nice to hear. But at the same time, why even bother changing them? There's a reason everybody loves these maps, because they're really fun. Modern Warfare 2 is one of the only games that has a collection of damn near perfect maps. Even the bad ones play really nicely and were really fun. When I hear we're going to update the maps, I think Modern Warfare 2019 Crash, where they completely fucked up the gameplay and the flow of the entire map because they wanted to change shit about. In general, I'm more excited about this because even a bad version of a remastered map nowadays seems to be better than their original maps. I don't know who they've got at doing their original maps anymore. They stuck dick. Modern Warfare 2, the one that just came out, is some of the worst maps I've ever played in my entire life. I spend 90% of my time backing out of the lobbies because I see a map that's complete garbage. It's almost impressive just how bad they've gotten at making maps, but at least with updated versions of remastered ones, we might get something decent out of it. Overall, it's just stuff to get excited about, sure. I'm just saying temper your expectations. The lower you set your expectations, the less you're going to be disappointed. You've got to remember here, this is modern day Call of Duty. Even if every single thing was perfect, there's still going to be bullshit involved, like massively over the top skill-based matchmaking that doesn't even fucking work half the goddamn time. And then we've got Sledgehammer Games who've proven time and time and time again that they don't know what the fuck they're doing, gameplay-wise or map-wise. Actually, Vanguard maps weren't actually that terrible. It was like the only passable thing in the entire game. Everything else was garbage. But just lower the expectations, you know. This entire game is made up of remasters, and there's like an 80% chance that they fuck up a remastered map.
Maps really come through.